Buongiorno. I've got my coffee, and in today's video I want to answer a question that I've been getting a lot lately. I want to share my color grading process, showing how I go from a flat footage and romanticize it to get this soft and beautiful look. As I've started doing more vlogs here on YouTube, a lot of you asked how I achieve my look. So today let's talk about how I bring out those romantic tones that transform simple videos into soft memories. But first I want to do a little disclaimer. I'm a filmmaker, I'm not a colorist, so in this video I won't do a step-by-step tutorial on how to use DaVinci Resolve. This is more a deep dive into my personal taste and how I edit the videos that I like. Anyway, let's start with the grading, and we will start with some boring stuff, but it's just the foundation of our color grading. So exposure and white balance are probably the main reason why most of the footage usually looks like off. For my personal taste, to adjust the exposure, I use the HDR grade tab, where I can tweak the global exposure and fix the shadows and light depending on how the image looks. So in some cases the exposure is right in camera, sometimes it's a bit underexposed or overexposed, so I tweak it in the global tab, while I like to crank down the highlights to something like around -40, for example, like in this case, just to get rid of that digital white that you can get in a modern camera. While for the white balance, I recommend using the chromatic adaptation rather than using the slider here that you can find here. So the temperature here is not very manageable, and I think it works better in the chromatic adaptation tab. It also works in Kelvin, so I don't know, it's much easier in my mind. So yeah, like in this case, you can see the difference. I adjusted a bit the magenta tones and kept the white balance as it is because I think it's quite balanced. So once you balanced your image, the next step that I like to do is the contrast. And here you can already define a bit your look. And in this case, if I go to the curve tab, I simply do an S curve just to pops out a bit of contrast. So you can see the before and after, and I mean the footage, it already looks pretty good right now. But I know you're not here to see how I balanced an image, and so yeah, now let's start talking about the spicy stuff, and that's my sauce. And let's start defining the look. As I said, the main goal for me is to romanticize my footage to achieve a sort of soft memory of the video that I'm recording. And to do that, in my mind, I like to make some adjustments that bring out that sort of filmic look out of my footage. Now, mine is not a film emulation grade. I don't try to emulate any kind of film. For me, the film look is more about getting inspired by the colors and the contrast and the general vibe that you can have in your footage. And so to do that, the first thing that I want to do is to work on the curves again. So I will lift a bit the shadows and crank down a bit the highlights to balance a bit more the image, maintaining the contrast, but it's a little less punchy. Another thing that I like to do is to work with the shadows and the highlights. Of course, this comes to a personal taste, and I like usually to have some cold shifts in the shadows and some gradient shift in the highlights. So you can get this look here, and you can see the difference from the basic look to this look here. Of course, by doing that, we are making the image feel a bit colder, and there is one thing that I will do later, and will be to bring out a bit of warm tones, but I don't do it by actually shifting the white balance. So yeah, we will do it anyway later. The last step that I like to do is to play around with saturation and colors. So for me, film look, it's also a bit desaturated, like slightly. Of course, the colors are punchy, but it's not about saturation, it's all about luminance. And I do that by managing the colors. And when I'm touching the colors, of course, this again, it's up to your personal taste. I like to have a bit of darker tones on the reds and the greens. And here basically I touched just that. I lifted a bit the greens just to my taste, and the luminance, again, I crank down the luminance of the reds and the greens just to meet my taste. Once I set up the basic look that I want to have in my image, one thing that I do is to bring out a bit of warm tones. And to do that, I simply bring down a bit the greens and the blues in the tone curve, just to get rid of the extra touch of the greens and the blues that I added in the color shift. Another thing that I like to do in my grade is to work on the texture of the colors and the image. And by doing so, I like to tweak a bit the midtones and the highlights. So there are just small refinements that helps to bring out a bit of extra detail in your colors. You see, this is just a general thing about DaVinci. You don't need to do big adjustments. Even like small tweaks and small adjustments, it already helps a lot to define a good look. Then I have one of my favorite node, and it's all about color density. You see, color density, it refers to the richness, the depth, and the darkness of a color. And it's defined by how much light absorb a certain color rather than just, I don't know, hue or saturation. So by increasing the color density, you can get deeper colors. And I mean, you can see how the greens and the oranges especially are a bit more punchy and more three-dimensional to me. Then there are a few extra touches, and for example, we have the roll-off, which means that we crank down a bit the highlights to get rid of, again, that digital look that you can get out of any modern digital camera. To enhance this effect, I like to use sort of mist effect by increasing a bit the gloom of the image. Then yeah, of course, there are some extra things that you can implement. It's all about sharpness, blur, or grain. You can add all these three things to your image to get that vintage look. So yeah, let me show you how this grade actually works on different situation and different footage. So for example, here we are still in Kyoto, and I mean, you can see the before after, it's pretty solid. Or for example, in the interiors, maybe here I need to tweak a bit the highlights and the general exposure, but it's already working pretty well. Works well also in the harsh light situations. So for example, here we have a very nice balanced image with nice colors, and considering it was a midday light, it was really harsh, the light, and I was shooting in the direction of the sun. I mean, I really like those colors. And here I want to show you how the reds are actually working. Maybe this is a bit punchy in my opinion. So to tweak that, you can go in the color tab, finding the luminance of the red and tweak that a bit, and maybe crank down a bit the saturation just to have it a bit more chilled. But anyway, I really like these kind of deep tones that you can get out of the reds, the greens, and the blues. It's fun how I selected mainly Japan footage, but yeah, I think it works pretty well because the light is a bit off. It was a gray, cloudy days most of the times, or we have some interiors, and yeah, I really like how the color is pretty soft, the highlights are soft, and yeah, it really makes those soft memories that I really love. As you might know, and probably you already heard that sentence, but consistency is key, and building my own power grade helped me a lot to stay consistent in building my own look. And at the same time, it helped me to progress step by step with my color correction and my color grade. So every time I shoot something, every time I do a vlog, maybe I tweak a bit here and there the colors just to make it more pleasant for my taste. This always refine my color grade without doing radical changes from one video to another one. So yeah, consistency is what helped me a lot to define my own style. And I know how frustrating can be to find your own look when you're color grading your footage. And because of that, I decided to make available my power grade to any of you. And you can consider it as a sort of jump starter, so you don't have to start from scratch again, over and over again. And with this power grade, you will have the same nodes, the same adjustments, everything that I use to color grade my videos. So yeah, I really hope you will use it to define your own look. But more than anything, I hope this will help you to capture those soft memories as it does for me. In any case, I hope these tips will help you on your grading journey and get you closer to the look that you're going for. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. Ciao.